confidence, one of the things that we teach is a choice. It's a decision. When we are able to identify what it is that's making us feel unconfident, then we're able to overcome it.
Welcome back to my audience to another episode of Unexpectedly Successful, where you hear the raw and genuine stories of women just like you and I telling their journey as business owners. And today I'm super excited to bring these powerhouse women who I have the honor of sharing our borderplex area, our Latina heritage. And she is Cynthia Trejo, CEO and founder of Crowning Point, which is a training and consulting company for women leadership, and a foundation which is called Her Element Foundation, and it is a community to empower women of color. And she's most proud about the impact she has in women, including over 1,000 women that she's already trained. And these women, each one of them has a success story, including negotiating salaries, asking for raises, applying for positions for their investments. So I don't know about you, but I am excited to have Cynthia with us today. Welcome to our show, Cynthia. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for that awesome introduction, Griselda. Man, you're pumping me up. I'm getting all excited here.
Let's do it. All right. Okay, Cynthia, I'm excited to have you with us. And the first question is, can you please tell me who Cynthia is for you?
Oh my goodness, that's a really awesome question.
Tell us about it.
Who Cynthia is for me? I think from a very, very young age, you know who you are as from a young age. And knowing who I was always my motivator, my guide, my help. And so who Cynthia is I'm a strong Latina. I'm a strong, caring person who seeks justice, who goes for the underdog. That's who Cynthia is.
That's awesome. This is just the beginning, ladies. Okay, so get ready for the rest. So you talked about you are a strong Latina who fights for justice and seeks, what do you say? Goes for the underdog, you said.
Goes for the underdog, yes.
That is
yes.
so beautiful. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your heritage as a strong Latina, Cynthia. Tell us a little bit about where you're coming from.
I was born in California. In the work that I do, I recently came to find out that I was born in the time when Dolores Huerta was advocating for the farm workers in Bakersfield, California. And so that is when I was born. I was born in Bakersfield, California during the time that Dolores was advocating for the farm workers. And my mom was a farm worker. She was
Your mother was a farm worker in that moment, during this movement.
Yes, yes. And so, it's interesting to find out that Dolores was advocating for my mom.
Wow.
Right? For my mom and my dad. I was born in Bakersfield. We moved to El Paso. My mom is originally from El Paso. My dad passed away in an auto accident, and so my mom came back. And so I was raised here in El Paso. But I never knew that my mom was one of the farm workers that Dolores was advocating for. It's not until I started doing the work that I'm doing today that I come to find that out, which is, talk about full circle.
Wow. Wow. So tell us of what your experience being born in that environment with your parents' background. Tell us how that has impacted your life leading to you becoming a business owner.
My parents were very hardworking individuals. My mom worked multiple jobs. And they did what it took. They did whatever it took to make sure that we never lacked, and we never did. But we had very humble beginnings, And, I went to school. I remember being in elementary school, and my mom was the custodian there at the school that I was going to. And so I would get out of school, and then I'd hang out with my mom after school while she was cleaning the classrooms. So that's my upbringing. And in living in that, I saw how many times my parents were mistreated. And so that's why I'm very passionate about the things that I do.
So walk us through you being a elementary student, hanging out with your mother, working at the school, then moving into being a professional, and then becoming a business owner. Can you walk us through that sequence of events? Tell us about you, Cynthia.
Yeah, so again, going back to this humble upbringings, I didn't have any ambitions. I didn't realize that I could be something. I didn't know what I wanted to be. There was never a thought of going to college or anything. It was about, turning of age and working and helping the family. But at a very young age, and I talk about how at a young age we know who we are, we know what we want, we know our potential, and at the age of 16, I realized that that in order for me to help my family, that I needed to get an education. And so at that age, I had dropped out of school, but I re-enrolled in school and went back and completed my education. So there was that desire to do more, to want more. And I didn't know what that was. I just knew that I had the potential to do more and be more.
Do you remember what happened at age of 16 that changed that perspective, that gave you, like being out of school and then all of a sudden having this epiphany that education was going to bring you places? Do you remember what happened then?
I do. So, in our family, the thing would be is that you turn the age of 16 and then you drop out of school and help the family get a job. And so, my older brother, he turned 16, he dropped out. My older sister, she, at the age of 16, she got married. And then I turned 16 and I dropped out of school. I started looking for work and no one would hire me, which is a good thing because I was wondering what's going on. I remember that day when I made that decision because I was sitting at the kitchen table, sitting there just contemplating, what am I going to do? And I realized that I wanted more. That I remember thinking, this isn't the life that I want. And if I'm going to help my parents, I need to go back to school. And so I told my mom and I spoke with her and I told her I need to go back to school. And so,
what was her reaction then, Cynthia? If it was not a family tradition,
she was taken back by it. She didn't really know what to do, and she said, if that's what you want to do, then you're going to have to re-enroll yourself in school because I can't help you. And so I did. I remember walking back to school that day and re-enrolling in school. I couldn't go back at that time because it was already mid-year, and so I had to go back the following year. I ended up graduating a year later. A year late from my original class.
So this is you in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened after that, Cynthia?
I started going to college. I went to a business school and then I started going to college and then I fell in love and I got married.
During college.
And I left school and started a family. And college was something that I was going in and back and forth, going back and forth. I was in the long, what do they call it, the 10-year plan? Actually, it took me longer because I eventually didn't, I ended up having my children. But I remember one day, with me going back to school, it really encouraged my siblings to go back to school. And so they completed, they got, they got their GED. My older sister ended up going to college, and she would tell me, come with me. Come finish, come with me. And I was like, no, I can't. And so finally she convinced me, what she said is, she goes, you want to be 40 with a degree or without a degree? Because either way, you're going to be 40. How is that going to look like for you?
This was a question from your older sister who you had influenced to go back to school, and now she's challenging you.
Right.
And what did you answer to that question? You want to be 40 with or without?
With a degree, definitely. And so I enrolled in school, and we both went to school together. We graduated together.
Oh, wow. What did your parents say when you both were graduating from college? I mean, your mother, that it was something was not familiar for her.
It was not familiar for anyone, right? For anyone, because like I said, my sister, I was, going here and there, part-time basis. My sister decided to go full force. She didn't end, I got my bachelor's. She kept going, and she got her master's. Like I said, my other siblings went back to school. So that's not an issue. That's not part of our, you call it a generational curse. That's not in our family anymore. We don't have those issues. You broke it.
You opened up possibilities. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. And then what happened after college? You were married, you had children. Now you're before 40 with a degree. What happened after that?
Before 40. Yeah, so I've had several jobs. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I've had other companies, and with this most recent company, I remember telling my husband, "I'm gonna start another business. I have no idea what it is, but I'm gonna start another business." So he knows, my entrepreneurial spirit. With the company that I have currently, it started when I was doing financial services. So I was doing financial services. I did that for about 10 years. I was meeting with women and asking them about their ambitions, their goals, what they want for retirement, what does their future look like, asking all those very important questions. And what I noticed is that the ladies that I was meeting with, they had these challenges in life. A lot of it had to do with confidence, insecurity, things like that. They were opening up, and it seemed like they felt that they were going through this alone. What they didn't realize is that a lot of women are going through this, right? I saw that. I saw the pattern. I saw in our conversations that the pattern of the experiences that the women were feeling and going through. And I thought to myself, if they only knew, they're not alone. Women need to talk to each other. We need to know these are the things that we're going through. And so I started to think about how I could help, right? How can I help? How can I help women realize that they're not going through these things alone? And so I started putting workshops. That was, finding ways to share this information, to share, about confidence, about speaking up, that their voice mattered. And that was back in like 2017. Workshops here and there, still doing financial services. In 2019, I started actually putting a series of women's leadership workshops in El Paso. And it was going really, really good. I decided to start the business, and I was going to have my ribbon cutting in March of 2020.
And then what happened?
There was a lot of stuff that happened. So obviously I didn't have my ribbon cutting. We went on lockdown with the pandemic, and I thought this is not a good time to try to open a business. Businesses were closing down, they were struggling, and I felt it's not the right time. And so I took a step back. Of course, we went on lockdown workshops, doing these in-person seminars and workshops was not an option. I stepped away. And the pandemic for me was really, really difficult because I'm a very people person. I love to be around people. I'm people oriented. I love to be out there, and it was very trying. It was very difficult. I just had a really difficult time with it, not being able to be around people. And so I went online. I started, to attend virtual events and started meeting people virtually. I started doing lives. I got very uncomfortable doing a lot of things that I wasn't used to doing, and then and I'm not the only one, obviously, right? We all did, right? We all had to go virtual, and we all had to what that word pivot, right?
Yes.
And so I went virtual. I started meeting people, and I met people outside of El Paso, right? I started meeting people in Puerto Rico, in New York, in Portugal, all over the place.
Wow.
And they were Latinas as well. And I was like,
Huh.
what? I was like,
How
this is
amazing.
awesome. It was pretty awesome to see. We have this. There's so it doesn't matter where we live in the world. There's that similarity of knowing your sister. Who's a
Huh.
Latina, and it was just a really really neat experience. So I started having virtual events. I thought I'll have some virtual events, and the women again having these conversations. We were having. I have a show that was called Real Talk. And so we were having real conversations with women about, what's happening during the pandemic and stuff. And that's when I noticed that women were really, really struggling during this pandemic time, right? I mean, we were having conversations virtually where the women were breaking down and crying and stuff. And
Wow.
I thought, oh my gosh, I need to do something. I need to move forward. And so I started the business during the pandemic. I started the Crowning Point during the pandemic, which at that point it was called Her Element Network. And so I started having, the virtual workshops. I started creating courses. As I mentioned, I met with, other women outside of El Paso. I was able to create partnerships with some awesome, amazing women who are subject matter experts in their field, right? Women who are experts in confidence, in women's leadership, in
Awesome.
negotiations from all over, from Harvard, from New York, from all over the place. And so I was able to create partnerships with these ladies to put together our workshops and our trainings and our courses. And so in Crowning Point, our women's leadership training program is in partnership with women who are experts in that subject matter. And that's what came from from the pandemic.
But Cynthia, you were already doing it. You just paused and then got a little hesitant, and then this reconnection to the need ignited you once again, because you were already doing it, right? I mean,
Right.
my feeling is based on what you said from early childhood, you've been doing this through your different roles all your life. It was just a moment to bring it as a full force business. Is that accurate?
Yes, you hit it right in the nail. Uh-huh.
So now tell us, like, where are you as a business owner now with Crowning Point? I mean, now in that moment where you say, okay, I'm going to move forward full force, and then you created the foundation, and then like, tell us like what's happened in like those connections, partnerships, you having success stories with the work that you do. Tell us all the excitement.
Well, a lot has developed. During the pandemic, I worked a lot. I worked a lot just to keep my sanity. And so I worked long hours. I was working a lot. That's all I did. We created courses. I was able to now have this women's leadership training program. It's a 6.5-month program. It's in
Wow.
partnership with Pepperdine University. And so the ladies go through this program. They receive a certificate of completion. They can receive continuing education credits, and it's through
Wow.
Pepperdine, the Graduate School of Education and Psychology and Education in Pepperdine.
That's
That came,
awesome. That's awesome.
that came from the pandemic. I was able to meet somebody in Pepperdine, right? Somebody that I never
Wow.
thought I would have met. It's pretty amazing.
What else has happened, Cynthia? I mean, it sounds like you have layers of cool things happening. So tell us more. Tell us more. What else has happened in these 2-3 years of work?
In creating Her Element Network, which is now Crowning Point, the foundation came to be. And The In Her Element Foundation was created because we had this awesome program that I wanted to provide to women, to give them encouragement and support and knowledge and skills and abilities to reach their goals and their ambitions, right? But what I felt is that the ones that the ladies that I really wanted to help, they wouldn't be able to pay for these courses. And so that's where the foundation came in. If I'm able to create a nonprofit and receive grants and funding, then through there they're able to receive the training. They can get the funding to attend courses, not just mine, just in general, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where the foundation came from. It's In Her Element Foundation. Again, this is all with other women. Everything that I do is in collaboration and partnership with other women, and women who are awesome. I look for women who are helpers, who desire to give back, right? And who know their stuff, right? The ladies that are part of the foundation, the mentors in our program, they're women who are in C-suite positions for large companies. They're business owners. They're directors. They're executive officers. They're awesome women. And then the women who are coming through our program, I work with other nonprofits or other organizations to find the individuals that need the mentoring or want the mentoring. So our first cohort, this is a year-long program on the foundation side, right? We have a mentoring program. It's a 1-year program. Our first year, we worked with the Isleta Adult Learning Center, and we had 12 ladies who were going to school for English as a second language. Those were the ladies that were coming through our program. The second cohort that is going on right now, these are high school students that senior high school students that just graduated in June. We have 9 ladies going through the program, and these ladies were recommended from communities and schools. And Communities and Schools is a nonprofit organization that works with high-risk students. And so these ladies are going through our program currently. It's been amazing to see the growth and the beauty of change taking place within these ladies.
Wow. Wow, Cynthia, when you were talking about, when you thought about the creation of the foundation, you said, but the ladies that I really wanted to help couldn't pay. So can you dig deeper into the really part?
Going back to, we talked about my upbringing, right? The ladies that I wanted to help were ladies like my mom.
Tell us more about that.
I recently did an interview, and this is emotional for me. Sorry.
This is where the raw and genuine stories are told. So we welcome that you're genuine.
What I was saying, what I had shared in another interview is that the desire to do more in your life shouldn't lack because of the lack of resources that you have, meaning economic, right? Your economic status. That desire that you have to do more shouldn't be based on your economic status. And so that's where that comes from.
Wow.
We have the dreams. I mentioned that when I was growing up, I didn't have ambitions. I didn't even know that I could go to college. I didn't know that was an option. But when I found out, I went for it. And so it's important that we let these young women know. And like I said, in our program, we have young women, we have older women, we have women that are close to 60 years old. If there's a desire, if there's a passion, if there's something that they want to do with their lives, we're here to help with that. It's not based on what their socioeconomic status is. That dream should be there.
So you're giving access to women to things that they couldn't afford, to things that they did not see as possible, to opportunities that were not in their projected trajectory. So, what is your why, Cynthia? I mean, we've talked about it in a way, but what is your why?
You know, as women, number one, and then as Latinas, number two, there's so many challenges out there. There's so many
Tell us
challenges. You
about
know,
that.
the fact that, some of us have an accent, right? When we speak with an accent, we might be seen as being unintelligent when that's not the case. We speak two languages. That makes us very
That's right.
intelligent, right? We're
That's
using
right.
two parts of our brain when we speak two languages. We're using more
That's
of our
right.
brain.
And research shows that Alzheimer's is decreased for people who are bilingual.
Very good. Yes. And so, the fact that we may have an accent, the fact that we may be humble, again, that's part of our upbringing, doesn't mean that we're not intellectual. And so that's one of my driving forces, right? I shared with you earlier where I had a situation with a gentleman with an individual who
That's right. An
was
individual. That was the agreement.
with
And
an
the
individual.
audience is going to find out why he was an individual and not a gentleman. Just in a moment.
I had a situation last year with an individual who was very demeaning, was trying to intimidate me and spoke down to me. I don't know if it's because I'm a female or if it's because I'm Hispanic or it's both. But I feel like it's something that as Latinas we come across a lot. And so in this particular situation, it was, I felt like I handled myself really good. I mean, it's not that I feel like I know that I handled myself well. I kept my cool, I stood my ground, and I handled it to the best of my ability, which was good. But after we ended the meeting, I was left with a lot of negative energy. I was upset. I was upset, and I didn't know what to do with it.
You were mad.
Yeah, I was angry.
You were pissed off.
I'm like, how dare he talk down to me? What gives them a right to speak that way to another person? Why? And so I'm walking around pacing the house, and I'm telling my husband, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with it. I'm pacing the house. I'm upset. And so I finally sat down and I started to write. I just started to write my feelings. I started to write what I was experiencing and what I was thinking and trying to put everything together, trying to really make sense of what was going on. And I wrote a poem. And
wow. Would you read the poem to us?
Yes. So I have it right here.
And for my audience, this is a very special moment because Cynthia, in any other situation, would not have shared this poem. So I am very honored and privileged to have this poem read in this space. So Cynthia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I put my thoughts into words, and these words became a poem. I shared it last year on social media because I was asked to. Right, I shared it with family members and and friends, and they were like, "You got to share this." And so I hesitantly did it because I'm a private person, but I did it, and it got a really good response. And so I'm sharing it. It's from the heart, people, and I hope I don't get emotional.
And if you get emotional, let it out.
So I'll go ahead and read it. And it's called I Am a Strong Latina, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. I am a strong Latina, standing on the shoulders of giants, a woman who knows what she wants, raised in a cultura that honors our elders, vecinos, tíos, and tías. I learned at a young age the importance of hard work, dedicación, and the significance of being agradecida for all the blessings we have. I am a strong Latina, standing on the shoulders of giants. My parents worked endlessly for love of familia. They did side hustles, farm work, hard labor, to give us a better life and opportunities to excel and succeed. I am a strong Latina standing on the shoulders of giants. I understand the importance of a good work ethic, honesty, and integrity. These cultural values, beliefs, and morals are the roots of my raza. But don't be mistaken by my brown color, accent, or humildad and respeto. I know my worth and I know who I am. I am a strong Latina standing on the shoulders of giants. They gave all they had to provide a better vida, sueños, and ambitions. But don't underestimate my fuerza. I'm not easily intimidated by callousness or presumido attacks. I am a strong Latina standing on the shoulders of giants. I was raised by proud Latinos, and I'm not easily defeated. Those that came before me overcame tremendous adversidades. I inherited their resilience y poder. I know who I am. I am a strong Latina standing on the shoulders of giants, adopting, inspired, and bold. I am a strong Latina. I stand tall, have a voice, orgullosa, and optimistic. I am empowered and thriving, standing on the shoulders of giants. I will not let them down, nor will I be silenced.
Wow. Wow. How does that make you feel, just reading this and hearing this and knowing where you come from and where you're going?
You know, we have a, I have it, I think it's important that I shared with others before that when I was growing up, I was embarrassed of the things that we went through. But as I go into the work that I do and learn more about what my parents went through, there's pride in that. There's pride in knowing that I am where I am because of what they did, because they didn't give up, because they were resilient, because they had hope, and I carry that hope.
Wow. Wow. That is so beautiful. And Cynthia, I just want to acknowledge that you are a strong Latina, and you are impacting Latinas to be even stronger, to be more resilient, to be more to be bolder, to conquer the things that they didn't see as possible. And that is amazing. I mean, that is just the legacy of Cynthia Trejo for the future to come is just amazing. And for the audience, I was in a conference that Cynthia put together, and there was this lady, I don't know, mid-20s, and she had gone through one of Cynthia's programs, and she was sharing her own story because through this program, she was able to connect to a number of opportunities, but one primary result of this program was the level of confidence and possibility she saw for herself led to now her working at the White House. And she was in El Paso as a young Latina woman, sharing her story. And the best part about it, it was that a bunch of high school students were listening. And so the ripple effect continues. And that is so powerful, because if we all do our own share of good and give back, this virtual cycle will never end. And so I want to thank you for starting those cycles of giving back, Cynthia. And I'm going to shift gears here for a moment. For the ladies out there, not sure about what to do about their confidence, not to do about like, how do I negotiate salary? How do I stand my grounds? What would be top 3 strategies that you would share with them, Cynthia?
It all boils down to confidence. So I'm a firm believer that if we're able to manage ourselves, our responses, and who we are, I shared the experience with this individual, right? I was able to maintain my confidence my demeanor, my stand my ground, right? And it comes from confidence. So confidence, one of the things that we teach is a choice. It's a decision. When we are able to identify what it is that's making us feel unconfident, then we're able to overcome it. So that would be the first thing, right? When a person is unconfident, what's happening is that your amygdala, you're working out of an emotion. You bring it to the frontal cortex. You rationalize. You understand what is actually taking place here and what's making me feel unconfident. When you identify it, then you're able to overcome it, so that the next time something like that happens, you know exactly how to deal with it, how to work through that. So that's
So
one of the things that we teach.
turning an emotion into a rational thought that then you can control. I love it. Okay, number two.
Number two, what was so what's another
Top three strategies for ladies who are struggling with just being bolder, being more outspoken, being just considering possibilities. Like you gave us confidence in how to hack that. Number two.
learn to be an advocate for yourself, right?
Tell us about that.
One of the workshops that we have is amplify your accomplishments. As women in general, we don't like to talk about our accomplishments. And so don't downplay your accomplishments. That's number one. Don't if you've done something and someone's congratulating you for what you've done, don't downplay it by saying, "Oh, it's nothing," because it is something,
It is
right?
something.
And so how you can respond to that is thank you. When somebody's
Yes.
telling you that you're doing something awesome, that you're doing great, you respond with thank you, and not
I
say
am.
it
Thank
was
you. I
nothing.
am.
If you feel comfortable going with the I am, but I would just say, say
To start, thank
start
you.
with thank you. Yes.
What else, Cynthia?
And the third one is, ladies, it's so important that we negotiate for our salaries. Negotiate in general, but when it comes to salaries and it comes to Latinas, especially for Latinas. Why? Because Latinas are making 54 cents for every dollar that a white man earns. We're the lowest paid gender. I mean, it's the race when it comes to
Wow.
our salaries. And so what I want you to all to remember is that negotiating for your salary, that's all part of the interview. If you're not
Wow.
negotiating for your salary, you're leaving out a very important part of the interview. They're expecting you to negotiate.
So, Cynthia, let's say that I am interviewing for a job and it gets to the moment of somebody bringing the number conversation. So, can you walk us through that moment and how usually happens for women and what should be or could be the alternative?
Well, it's important to be prepared, right? When you're applying for the position, you need to research, right? We need to research the position, the role, the pay. What's the pay within for example, here within El Paso? What's the pay outside of El Paso if it's remote? Do your homework, right?
Yes.
So when it comes down to when the offer is made, you know whether or not it's a good offer, right? Because you've done your homework. Number two, like I said, there's always wiggle room. I shouldn't use the word always, but there's for the most part there'll be some wiggle room there. And so you want to be able to negotiate based off of your experience, right? Your experience in that particular field, your education, your knowledge. Come prepared and know where you want to be within that range. Like I said, it's part of the interview. So there needs to be that ask about the pay. Now,
Yes.
it all depends on what they're offering, because each situation is different. But based on the fact that you've already done the research, you should know where you stand. You should know where
Yes.
you should be in that pay range. And if it's not where it needs to be, you can ask, is there some wiggle room there? Right? Is there some wiggle room there? let's say they're, I don't know, give me a number. Let's say 50,000, right?
Yes, 50,000.
And so if they're offering 50,000 for the they give you an offer for 50,000 based on your knowledge and experience, you know you should be closer to 60, right? Then you come back and you answer that way, right? Based on my experience, based on my research, based on, the position, it should be closer to blah blah blah, whatever that dollar amount is. Let's say it's 60,000. But
Yes.
you don't want to be at a point where you're going to come back down. Where you want to go a little bit higher so that if there's still some room to negotiate, if you have to come down a little bit. So there's a lot to it, right? There's a lot to it. I'm just trying to give
Yes.
some small things here. But do your research. I just come back to do your research, find out where you should be at. There's a lot of companies out there that can do the research for you, right? I shouldn't say a lot of companies, but there's organizations out there that can do the research. You can go through the for example, here in El Paso with the workforce solutions, they can give you what those salaries should be.
So for anyone outside El Paso, the Workforce Solutions is the workforce. What is the agency? So this is the state agency that is in charge of training and placing employees into jobs. So for other states, if you look for the entity that helps statewide employees find a job, that is the entity that Cynthia is referring to. That I did not know that. That's really
Yes,
cool.
they can offer that. You can also go to salary.com. And so you can
Salary.com.
research. You can research there based on the position, the job title, your years of experience. What's the starting salary? What's the medium salary? What's regular pay? You can go to glassdoor.com and they'll show you salaries for that company and the different roles and what the average salary is for that organization. So that's part of the research, right?
Yes. So Cynthia, let's say that this example of $50,000, and then the research shows that it was closer to 60, and this woman goes and negotiates and gets a pushback. What would you offer at that point as the next strategy to stay firm in their grounds?
Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be, I know it's tough sometimes, but don't be afraid to say no. We have stories in other conferences and women sharing their stories. And there's one in particular that stands out where one of the ladies came back and said she needed to be at a higher salary and they told her they couldn't. In fact, there's actually two that run out right now that I'm thinking about it. And she said, I'm sorry, I can't take the position. Well, they came back and they created a position.
Wow.
And paid her what she wanted. There's another individual that I was guiding through the process to negotiate her salary. And it went back and forth a few times. They told her they couldn't. She turned it down. They came back and they offered her the salary.
Wow.
So don't be afraid to say no. I know sometimes it's hard because of our situation. You may need the job and things like that. But, that's part of being able to know where your value is, right? Where you're worth it.
I love it. I love it. And yeah. And even if you had to take that salary, you can still keep that door open, right, for negotiation as you continue to evolve in that position.
Right, because negotiations doesn't only pertain to salary. We're talking about salary right now, but there's other things you can negotiate, right? You can negotiate time off. You can, look at, the compensation for other things, maybe your health care, things like that. There's other negotiables. There's a lady that just recently shared on her negotiation with her employer. Just recently, it was yesterday, where she was already working there and she had her evaluation and she was asking for more, and they said, well, at this time we really can't. And so she thought, what else can I negotiate? And so there was an office that she had her eye on, and the office had a window, and she wanted an office with a window, and so she asked for that and they gave it to her. So it
That is
doesn't,
awesome.
right. It doesn't always pertain to money. Right now we're talking, salary because that's
Yes.
important, right?
Yes.
But if that's not an option, then consider other things.
Become creative because it's a fun exercise. It's scary, but it's fun as well. So speaking of scary, Cynthia, what has been one of the scariest moments in your walk as a business owner? It can be in this business or in the previous businesses that you owned before.
Gosh, I've learned a lot. So I mentioned I've had other businesses. In my very first business, I was in advertising because I have a background in marketing and advertising, and I started a business in advertising. We often hear many times when women say or business owners say, "This is my baby," right? Your business is your baby. And so I got to the point where I had to make a decision as to whether or not I was going to get a business loan. I was also in the process of buying a home. And so I had to make the decision, do I want to buy a home? Do I
Wow.
get a loan for my business? What do I do? Well, I wanted a home. And so I went towards the option of getting a home. And at that point, I had to decide, what do I want to do with the business? And so I was seeking counseling. I've always had someone that I've been mentored. I'm an advocate for mentoring. So if you have an opportunity to be mentored, be mentored. And so I
Yes.
was I was being mentored at the time, and the options that they told me is, sell the business, or get a partner, or let it go. And so for me, it was, no, this is my baby, and I don't want anybody to
To
mess
have
up the
my
name.
baby.
Right, to mess up the name of the company, to mess up the company, or change the name, or it's my baby. And so I closed the business down. And
Wow.
so that was a huge learning lesson because, we're there's a saying from one of my mentors that he said, everything that has a beginning has an end. And so when you build your business, build it with knowing that there's an end. It's either going to be through succession planning, right? You're going to sell it. You're going to have somebody come in and take over. You have to consider, what is the end for you, for your business. Maybe you're building a business to sell it, or to grow it, or to give it to a family member. But what is your succession planning for that? I didn't have a succession plan. Mine was, this is my baby and no one's going to take it, and I'm just going to close it. And that was not a good decision.
That is so insightful because yeah, I mean, as business owners, as CEOs, right? That's the mentality of a CEO. How am I gonna grow my business to then pass it on to the next person and continue legacy? And that's a very insightful. Thank you for sharing that, Cynthia. Okay, so in one word, how can you summarize your business ownership journey?
Uh, One word. Wow.
One word. That's a tough one.
It's been a joy.
Joy. I love it. It's been a joy. All right. And then the next question is, were you expected to be successful?
Was I expected to be successful? But
Yes.
as a business owner, or just in
As a
life, or
business owner,
did I expect it?
whoever.
I mean, the way I'm wired is, I do things to succeed. So I that was not a thought, whether or not I
Awesome.
was going to succeed.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. And why the hesitation? You're like, from who?
Because I didn't understand the question. Was I expected to succeed? I mean, if for myself, that in myself, yes, that expectation was I would succeed. Others, I don't know.
But
I have no
Cynthia,
idea.
what others think about me is not my business.
Yeah, I don't. I Like I mentioned, I do have mentors, but that's not part of the conversation. Whether or not I can be successful. It's how can I be successful.
I love it. I love it. How will you be successful and find the way? I love it. Okay. Well, Cynthia, this has been an amazing conversation. I totally learned really amazing things about you and your journey and why you do the things you do. And I love that now you are a poet.
Unexpectedly, right? It's part of your podcast.
And I would recommend you adding it to your LinkedIn, a poet.
A poet. That's funny. That's funny.
Anyway, Cynthia, I want to thank you for being here with us, for sharing those moments of vulnerability, for sharing your inspiration and all the things that come with Cynthia when you come into a room, when you work with your clients, when you walk this walk of entrepreneurship and this joyful walk of entrepreneurship. For my audience, how can they get in touch with you?
So we have two businesses, right? I have two businesses. Crowning Point is crowning-point.com. That's our website. The foundation is inherelementfoundation.org. And the phone number is 915-304-4003. I'm on social media, right? Myself, the businesses are, and the organization is on social media. So you can find us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. And then we have our Si Se Puede conference coming up on October the 6th. So for those of you that are in El Paso, I really would love to have you join us because we have Richard Montañez, who is the individual that helped create Cheetos. He's got a tremendous story, awesome, beautiful, amazing story that he's going to share. So we'd love to have people come and join us for that.
Awesome. For the people around El Paso, Texas, conference Si Se Puede for you to meet amazing, incredible women and for you to connect to networks, to mentors, to partners, to others who are in the same walk as you are. Until next time, thank you, audience, for joining this conversation. More to come.